Hi, my name is Jillian Britton, and I did a motion analysis of kicking a soccer ball. So in my analysis, I focused on the biomechanics for kicking a soccer ball to produce the maximum distance. There are several reasons to kick a soccer ball for maximum distance during a game. One would be corner kick, goal kick, and a free kick. In all three of these examples, the goal is to kick the soccer ball far distance with precision. And the purpose of this analysis is to teach an athlete the most effective way to kick a soccer ball a far distance with considerations of safety to prevent injuries. The skill and movement analysis, there are 6 stages to kicking a soccer ball and a free kick. There's the approach, the planting the non-kicking foot, swinging the limb, forward momentum, contacting the ball, and follow through, as seen in the image below. And after the follow through, there's a recovery period where the body is repositioning itself, repositioning its balance to be ready for whatever happens next. So in the approach phase, this phase is very critical. It determines the quality of the entire rest of the motion. It sets the groundwork for the following phases. In the planting foot, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's planting the non-kicking foot for stabilization purposes. And swinging the limb is where the player is trying to produce as much force between him and the ball. Forward momentum goes with swinging the limb. Forward momentum goes as the player uses it to produce more force on the ball. When contacting the ball, this phase is when the force is passed from the foot to the ball. Depending on where the ball makes contact, depending on where the foot makes contact with the ball is where the ball will go. And then the follow through is the body continuing the motion after contact with the ball, and most of the contractions are eccentric in this phase. For the anatomical analysis, I did look at upper body, lower body, and right and left sides, but for the time purposes, I'm just going to focus on the right side of a right-footed player and just the joints on the lower extremities. The upper extremities are used, although some do not think it would be, but if you've ever tried to kick a soccer ball without your arms, it is very difficult. The movements of the upper extremity help for agility, balance, and range of motion. So I also broke it down into just 3 phases instead of all of them, also for the sake of time. So in the beginning, the approach phase, at the right hip, it is going to be extending as well as the right knee, bringing it back, getting ready for the forward momentum, and the right ankle is going to be plantar flexed, and all the contractions in this phase are isometric. And then in the forward momentum phase, as the forward momentum comes forward of swinging the limb, the right hip will begin to flex and the right knee will begin to extend, and the foot will begin to dorsiflex. And these motions are concentric contractions. And then in the last follow-through phase, this phase is very important in order to get the ball where you want it to go. And at the right hip, it is going to be like the finishing part of flexion and the finishing part of extension in the knee and plantar flexion of the right ankle. But as I said, this is different because the contraction is going to be eccentric. For the mechanical analysis, the 3 laws of motion can be applied to the soccer game and a free kick. So the first one being the law of inertia, states that a body in motion stays in motion at the same speed and direction unless acted on by a force. This concept can be applied to kicking a soccer ball because the player needs to apply force on the ball in order to make it move. And once the foot has made contact with the ball will stay in a straight line at the same speed and direction, with gravity being the only external force acting on it until it comes back down to the ground. The next one being the law of acceleration, states that the change in acceleration is directly proportional to the force causing and inversely proportional to the mass of the ball. So basically this means that the mass of the ball is relatively light, so it'll be easier to enact force on, but because of that, it will not go as far for as long. And then lastly, the law of inertia states that for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. This happens when in the planting the opposite foot phase. Putting force on the foot for stabilization, the ground provides a reaction force against our foot when we plant it, which we rely on. So I have some videos here of a bad free kick versus a good free kick. We can watch this bad one first. Oh, I don't think that worked. I'm going to play it one more time. So that was a very short video, but if we were able to slow it down, I think a major part that could have been critiqued was the follow-through phase. After contact with the ball, he completely stopped with the motion that he was beginning with, and I think that affected on where the ball went, and it didn't go where he wanted it to go. So the next video I have is the proper formation of a free kick, and it kind of breaks up the steps of the fundamentals of it. It's gonna play.
Hi, I'm Calvin Rosen. I play for the Miami FC. I'm gonna demonstrate.
No. I'm sorry about this. Worked the first time I tried it.
Hi, I'm Calvin Rosen. I play for the Miami FC. I'm gonna demonstrate the proper way to take a free kick. So the first thing to keep in mind is you want to take 2 or 3 steps behind the ball. If you're a righty, 2 or 3 steps to the left of it, and if you're a lefty, 2 or 3 steps to the right of it. Now, when you approach the ball, the most important part is your plant leg, and you want to put the foot facing the direction of where you want to hit it. There's 2 ways of hitting the ball. You can strike it with the laces, that's for power, or you can finesse it and hit it with the instep. And that's the proper way to execute a free kick.
So again, he did do a nice job of explaining the different steps and ways, but if we were able to slow down his motion, you could see that he had a great approach and swinging the limb for momentum and a great contacting the ball with following through, and the outcome of his kick is evident from that. And then the application of my analysis. This can be used to teach a skill to beginning players or to perfect skill in trained players. After breaking down the motions in this paper, one can analyze their movements and identify the improvements in certain phases. So say a coach could film its players doing a free kick, and they could actually, like I said in the previous slides, if you're able to slow it down and just look at each phase, break it up, and just see where you could make improvements, could really help players improve their free kick motion. A player could also practice contacting the ball in different ways to produce different outcomes. As I said, in the contact phase, you can kick the ball in different areas to produce different outcomes. Like you want to kick the ball on the outside to create like a slight curve, or kick it underneath it to create height. There are different techniques for different purposes. And then the application of analysis practice drills. A drill, I have a picture down here showing a drill that is called Practice Like Beckham. And this drill would be used in practice kicking a soccer ball into the goal from various angles and various distances. This drill is used to perfect the skill for a bunch of different game scenarios because you're not always sure where you'd be kicking the ball. To take this a step further, a player could use a portable wall to practice free kicks when there are players standing in front of the goal, to practice direction as well as height. With this drill, a player would have to make the goal 3 times in a row before being able to move on to the next spot, so it really enforces consistency. And those are my references. Thanks.